I apologize, everybody. I gotta do a pre-reading throat clearing. Harold Jameson, once chief engineer of New York City's sanitation department, enjoyed retirement. He knew from his small circle of friends that some didn't, so he considered himself lucky. He had an acre of garden in Upper Manhattan that he shared with several like-minded horticulturalists. He had discovered Netflix, and he was making inroads in the books he'd always meant to read. He still missed his wife, a victim of breast cancer 5 years previous. Oh, already dark. But aside from that persistent ache, his life was quite full. Before rising every morning, he reminded himself to enjoy the day. At 68, he liked to think he had a fair amount of road left, but there was no denying it had begun to narrow. That's immediately depressing. The best part of those days, assuming it wasn't raining, snowing, or too cold, was the 9 o'clock walk to Central Park after breakfast. I always go on morning walks. Although he carried his cell phone and used an electronic tablet, had grown dependent on it, he still preferred the print version of the Times. In the park, he would settle on his favorite bench and spend an hour with it, reading the sections back to front, telling himself he was progressing from the sublime to the ridiculous. One morning in mid-May, the weather, coolish but perfectly adequate for He had turned to look at Jameson, but now he returned his gaze to his hands. I used to be a hell of a salesman. For 5 years, I headed the sales department of. Well, it doesn't matter, but it was a big deal. You'd know the company that was in San Diego. Now I'm down to peddling greeting cards and energy drinks to convenience stores and bodegas in the 5 boroughs. Last rung on the ladder, man. Get to the point, Jameson said, but not harshly. He had become a little interested in spite of himself. It was not every day that a stranger sat down on your bench and started spilling his shit, especially not in New York. I was just going to check on the Mets. They're off to a good start. The only time I'll curse in a video is if I'm reading it. Jack rubbed a palm across his mouth. I liked this guy I met at the sundown. So I got up my courage after a meeting and asked him to be my sponsor. In March, he looked over me and said he'd take me on, but only on 2 conditions. That I do everything he said and call him if I felt like drinking. Then I'll be calling you every fucking night, I said. And he said, so call me every fucking night. And if I don't answer, talk to the machine. Then he asked me if I worked the steps. Do you know what those are? Vaguely. Is there 5 of them? I said I hadn't gotten around to them. He said that if I wanted him to be my sponsor, I'd have to start. He said the first 3 were both the hardest and the easiest. They boil down to I can't stop on my own, but with God's help I can, so I'm going to let him help. Jameson grunted. I said I didn't believe in God. This guy, Randy's his name, said he didn't give a shit. He told me to get down on my knees every morning and ask this God I didn't believe in to help me stay sober another day. And if I didn't drink, he said for me to get down on my knees before it turned in and thank God for my sober day. Randy asked if I was willing to do that, and I said I was, because I'd lose him otherwise, you see. I'm confused on what's going on right now a little bit. Is he manipulating him? Sure, you were desperate. Exactly, the gift of desperation. That's what AA's call it. Hehe's call it. Randy said if I didn't do those prayers and said I was doing them, he'd know. Because he spent 30 years lying his ass off about everything. So you did it even though you don't believe in God. I did it and it's been working. As for my behalf, that there's no God, the longer I stay sober, the more that wavers. If you're going to ask me to pray with you, forget it. Jack smiled down at his hands. Nope. I still feel self-conscious about the on my knees thing even when I'm by myself. Last month, April, Randy told me to do the 4th step. That's when you make a moral inventory. Supposedly. decided he wasn't going to tell the guy in the Yankee gear to go fuck himself. He would listen, and the next time he met his friend, Alex, another retiree for lunch, he'd have something interesting to talk about. Okay, go for it. Jack reached into the pouch of his hoodie, took out a piece of paper, and unfolded it. When I was in 4th grade, if this is going to be your life story, maybe you better give me the 20 after all. Jack reached into his hoodie with a hand, not holding his list of wrongdoings, but Jameson waved him off, joking. Sure. Yes. Well, let's not take too long. I've got an appointment at 8:30. This wasn't true, and Jameson reflected that it was good he didn't have the alcohol problem, because according to the TV meetings he'd attended, honesty was a big deal if you did. Keep it speedy, got it? Here goes. In 4th grade, I got into a fight with another kid. Gave him a bloody lip and nose. When we got to the office, I said it was because he'd called my mother a dirty name. Switch sides here. He denied it, of course, but we both got sent home with a note for our parents, or just my mom in my case, because my dad left us when I was 2. Sadly relatable. And the dirty name thing, a lie. I was having a bad day and thought I'd feel better if I got into a fight with this kid I didn't like. I don't know why I didn't like him. I guess there was a reason, but I don't remember what it was. Only that set of pattern of lying. I started drinking in junior high. My mother had a bottle of vodka she kept in the freezer. I'd swig from it, then add water. She finally caught me, and the vodka disappeared from the freezer. I knew where she put it, on a shelf high over the stove. But I left it alone after that. By then it was probably mostly water anyway. I saved my allowance and tore money and got some old wino to buy me nips. You buy 4 and keep 1. I enabled his drinking. That's what my sponsor would say. Jack shook his head. I don't know what happened to that guy, Ralph. His name was. Only I thought of him as Wretched Ralph. Kids can be cruel, for all I know. He's dead and I helped kill him. Don't get carried away, Jameson said. I'm sure you have stuff to feel guilty about without having to invent a bunch of might-have-beens. Jack looked up and grinned. When he did, Jameson saw the man actually had tears in his eyes. Not falling, not brimming. Now you sound like Randy. Is that a good thing? I think so. I think I'm lucky I found you. Jameson discovered he actually felt lucky to have been found. What else have you got on that list? Because time's passing. I went to Brown and graduated, came loud, but mostly I lied and cheated my way through. I was good at it, and here's a big one. The student advisor I had my senior year with was a coke addict. I won't go into how I found that out. Like you said, time's passing, but I did, and I made a deal with him. Good recommends in exchange for a key of coke. Plus, of course, he'd pay for the dope. I wasn't into charity. Sorry about that, everybody. I just had to take the headphones off because I was getting a little uncomfortable. Key as in kilo, Jameson asked. His eyebrows went up most of the way to his hairline. Right. documents that didn't exist to explain days when I was too hungover to come in. Checkered expense sheets. The first job was a good one. The sky was the limit, and I blew it. After they let me go, I decided what I really needed was a change of location. In AA, that's called a geographic cure. Never works, but I didn't know that. Seems simple enough now. If you put an a-hole on a plane in Boston, an a-hole gets off in LA, or Denver, or Des Moines. I fucked up a second job. Not as good as the first one, but good. That was in San Diego, and what I decided then was I needed to get married and settle down. That would solve the problem. So I got married to a nice girl who deserved better than me. It lasted 2 years, me lying right down to the line about my drinking. Inventing non-existent business appointments to explain why I was home late. Inventing non-existent flu symptoms to explain why I was going in late or not at all. I could have bought stock in one of those breath mint companies, Altoids, Breath Savers, but was she fooled? I'm guessing not, Jameson said. Listen, are we approaching the end here? Yes, 5 more minutes, promise. Okay. There were arguments that kept getting worse. Stuff got thrown occasionally, and not just by her. There was a night when I came home around midnight, stinking drunk, and she started in on me. You know, all the usual jabber of all of it was true. And all of it was true. I felt like she was throwing poison darts at me and never missing. Jack was looking at his hands again. His mouth was turned down at the corners so severely that for a moment he looked at Jameson like Emmett Kelly, the famous sad-faced clown. You know what came into my mind while she was yelling at me? Glenn Ferguson, that boy I beat up in 4th grade. How good it felt, like squeezing the pus out of an infected boil. I thought it would be good to beat her up. And for sure, no one would send me home with a note from my mother, because my mom died the year after I graduated from Brown. Whoa, Jameson said, feeling good about this uninvited confession, took a hike. Unease replaced it. He wasn't sure he wanted to hear what came next. I left, Jack said, but I was scared enough to know I had to do something about my drinking. That was the first time I tried A&A. Out there in San Diego, I was sober when I came back to New York. I read that way too fast. Out there in San Diego, I was sober when I came back to New York. But that didn't last. Tried again, and that didn't last either. Neither did the third. But now I've got Randy, and this time I might make it. Partly thanks to you. He held out his hand. Well, you're welcome, Jameson said, and took it. There is one more thing, Jack said. His grit was very, very strong. He was looking into Jameson's eyes and smiling. I did leave, but I cut that bitch's throat before I did. I didn't stop drinking, but it made me feel better. The way beating up Glenn Ferguson made me feel better. And that wino I told you about, kicking him around made me feel better, too. Don't know if I killed him, but I sure did bust him up. Jameson tried to pull back, but the grip was too strong. The other hand was once more inside the bottle. so sorry. Kitty, it's okay. It's okay. And when Jack pulled the dripping ice pick away, once more tucking it into the pocket of his hoodie, Jameson realized he couldn't breathe. Killing people. It's a character defect, I know, and probably the chief of my wrongs. He got to his feet,